I want to talk these units with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Who do I feel good about? Who am I okay with? And what unit am I going to keep my eye on? I will tell you all of that today here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast. I've covered this team for over 2 decades now, or close to it. And we like to think that we keep our finger on the pulse of the team and give you everyday coverage here on Locked On Jaguars that'll keep you ready for training camp as we get closer and closer. We're going to talk about some things here today, but first I have to tell you that we are free to subscribe to wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you check in whether you watch or listen to make sure that you don't miss an episode. An episode like today that is sponsored by the Gametime app. That's right. Download Gametime, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It is game time, and it is now also time for me to let you know where we're going to go. We're going to end up we're talking about the units today. We're going to end up talking about units that we need to keep an eye on because we're not that sure about them. We're going to go in the middle with the ones we feel pretty okay about. But we are going to start with the ones that we feel really, really good about because good news is always important to get up front. And I'm going to start out right now with the quarterback position. Yep, I said it. I feel good about the quarterback position with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And one of the reasons I feel good about that is because I have never been the doom and gloom person that folks believe about that Trevor Lawrence should create. I don't believe it. I don't think Trevor is anything for anybody to be concerned or worried about when it comes to the Jaguars. What you have to do with Trevor is something that people that aren't local have to do. They keep holding on to the Trevor that came out of Clemson and this grandiose idea of who and what he could become. And the reason why folks do that is because for the same reasons that people get fatigued with people like Trevor Lawrence, Tim Tebow, Caitlin Clark, whoever. Folks overdo it. I know folks overdo it a little bit because they are trying to set up or predict future content. That's the way that I feel that they're doing it. They're trying to get ahead of the game. And even if they say something that later on turns out to be incendiary, well, then that in itself is content. The fact that they said it so they could give you a bunch of reasons why they have to now come down off of it. But when you deal with something every single day, right, like the fans here in Jacksonville, when you're on it every single day and you understand all of the turns and the ups and the downs and the lack of a good offensive line and the lackluster weapons that Trevor has had, with the exception of one or one and a half guys. I'd say one in Brian Thomas Jr. and then another guy. Maybe you put Evan Ingram together with Christian Kirk and you got a whole person because they were never really healthy with the exception for 1 year apiece. So I factor all of those things in. I also, if we want to sit here and go, Doug and Press were terrible, then you also have to factor that in. Now, I'm not blind. I know that sometimes what you can do is you can see a bad situation and can still find something good to say about a player and just say he's just in a bad situation. Trevor hasn't really done a whole lot to make a whole bunch of people feel that way, with the exception of 2022, the second year he was in the league. So I feel good about Trevor Lawrence because I believe the coaching, the insulation around him, and some of the other parts around him are going to be better. And then I think he's just going to be better because he's been in the league long enough. He's seen a lot of things. You're going to get a consistent look at the best part of Trevor. And then you're going to now, the variance between him making a big play and a dumb play, you're going to see him make a whole bunch more big plays. And I do think the plays that make you scratch your head with Trevor Lawrence are going to slowly start to disappear because of the structure and the way that the rest of the team is built. And by that, I'll get to the next unit that I believe is a very good unit, and that is the people that Trevor's throwing the ball to, the wide receivers. The addition of Diami Brown and the drafting of Travis Hunter, who's going to be on this list in 2 different spots, along with the greatness. And this is the first thing, the greatness that we have already seen from 7, Brian Thomas Jr. I used to call him BTJ. I guess they just call him BT over there. So we'll call him BT, right? BTJ sounds a little political. So we'll just go with BT. But BT is the one that really, it's not just Travis, it's BT. But then when you add those other 2 guys, they supplement this unit so well and add to this unit so well that it gives the Jaguars a whole bunch of dudes that when they catch the ball, they turn into dangerous runners. So the wide receiver position, by being in the front and up top on this list of things that I feel good about, inherently causes me to feel better about Trevor Lawrence also. And it's also the play calling. Even though I'm going just with the players here, I do have to say that the system and the things that they're going to be asking them to do, the offenses that they come from, the manner in which these coaches have begun the teaching process, how they talk. When Trevor says he wants answers provided pre-snap, and they're giving him answers pre-snap, that means he's not just lining up playing and just throwing the ball to see what sticks. And we've heard that before. We're trying different things. They're just going to be more intentional and know exactly what it is they're going to do. Last but not least, I got to go to the other side of the ball and tell you the unit that I feel great about is 3 of them. It's the edge rushers. Yep, I said it. They're finally going to get their due and their credit. 1, I like the defensive coordinator. 2, I like the defensive line coach. 3, I like the players. And then I like the fact that they've added depth by bringing back Dawon Smoot and adding Emmanuel Ogbah behind Josh Hines Allen and Travon Walker. This is going to be a situation now where those hurries and those sacks and being the only tandem with double-digit sacks a couple of years ago, all of those things that meant nothing because the team was not playing well, will now mean something, because now I think the defense is going to play better as a whole. They're also more intentional. You're going to see the best players on the field when they need to be on the field, which is pretty much most of the time, right? You're going to see these guys play well. They've all lost weight, trimmed back down. They look way more slim and way more athletic and just as strong as they did in the past. I absolutely believe that these guys are going to play well. Those are the 3 units that I'm most excited about, that I think they're good. I think they're good at quarterback, they're good at wide receiver, and they're good at edge. Good by what I mean by that is they can contend for everything. Nothing is off the table when you have guys that are that good. Now, I want to talk about the guys that are solid next, and then I'll talk about the units that I have questions about. I don't think any unit on this team is bad. I'll give you that. I do not think that any unit on this team is bad. Special teams almost made the good part of it. I just don't know. It's not just the punter and the kicker. It doesn't come down to that. Not just the punter, kicker, the long snapper. It comes down to everything else. So if there's one honorable mention for the top, I'm going to put special teams, because I do think the kicker and the punter are both, I think they're in the top 6, top 7 in the league. Logan Cook might be top 3 in punting. And then, with another year, I think Cam Little will show that he also deserves to be ranked very, very high when it comes to kicking, because his leg is strong. He's super, super consistent. It's down the middle. The ball pops off of his foot. It seemed like they took forever under the old administration to find the kicker in the Jaguars. These people, they got it done right. They finally got it done right in the last year of that regime. So I'm going to talk about 2 more of the units that I think are very, very solid. And then, of course, in segment 3, talk about 3 units that I'm going to have to watch and see. One of those is I'm not as high on as everyone else. So we'll get to it. Doesn't mean they're not going to be good. It just means that these are the questions I have. If I didn't have any questions, you might well just put them in the Super Bowl, right? All right, we'll go through all of this in just a second and talk about more of that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute that you wanted to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, and even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime definitely makes that possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to the first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Here's what you want to do, man. Those seat views are very important to you. You get a chance to see your seat right on the app before you buy, so you know exactly where you'll be. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime and download the Gametime app. Create an account and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, moving and grooving here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, going through units that I feel good about, that I feel okay about, and that I have to keep my eye on, and I suggest you do the same thing. I just said I feel good about wide receiver and quarterback in no specific order, and I gave an honorable mention to special teams also, and that has a lot to do with Heath Farwell and the fact that they have two really, really good kickers. Now, coverage. They got a lot of new pieces, a lot of moving parts. They're going to spend. I think they're going to use a lot of the young guys that they drafted on special teams. That still has to be ironed out, whether or not they're good at that stuff. We just don't know, but I think they'll be fine. But getting to the bigger units, the ones that I feel okay about, that I think are solid. Running back. I think running back's a solid position for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I do. I don't have as many questions about Travis Etienne as some people. Maybe he's not the college version of Travis Etienne now that he's been in the league and he's been around a little bit. I know he gets hit, and every time he gets hit, man, he looks like you ever see those National Geo shows where the cheetah gets faked out and he tries to turn and he spends like 30 minutes falling and legs flying all over the place. I know when y'all see Etienne get hit, it looks like somebody just hit him with a truck every single time, but he pops up. Maybe that's his way of absorbing it, just not trying to fight it and just trying to go with it. I don't know, but he does have a lot of explosiveness in his game, and we'll just have to see if he can get back to form. Maybe by having a little bit more room to run and maybe other weapons on the outside, teams won't key on him as much. Tank Bigsby at running back. I think he's another one who will benefit, and he's going to be a dude that plays in this league for a long time because he has a blend of speed and a blend of power. And then I think he stopped pressing a little bit. Some of those mistakes he was making, I believe, was because he just wanted to perform and wanted to do the absolute best he can. But that's a part of it. You have to be able to do your absolute best and perform your absolute best, but still hold on to the ball. Don't be the dude that every time he touches the ball, something negative happens. He kind of fixed that a little bit last year. Also showed a lot of explosiveness. Even had people thinking that maybe he was better than the starter. I also believe the Jaguars had to tap into their depth. They did draft two running backs. Both are a little bit different in the way that they move on day two of the draft. Oh no, it was day three actually. Day three of the draft, the Jaguars did go and get Bayshaw Tootin, a very fast, one of the fastest running back. I think he was the fastest running back at the combine. Has some fumbling problems, but he's a little bit of a combination between both Bigsby and Etienne, where he has the speed, the home run speed, but he also has that power. He has those big legs. He's kind of hard to tackle. And then, of course, they added LaQuint Allen Jr. I think LaQuint Allen, he looks like a third down back. His body type, it looks like Bernie Parmalee, if I'm dating myself a little bit. He kind of looks like that when you think about how he catches the ball, how he moves. He's almost like a little bit of a punt returner, a taller, sort of thinner version of Bryant Westbrook. They all make the team, in my opinion, and that's why I think they'll be just fine. All right, the other unit that I'm really, really okay with are the defensive backs. And the reason why I say just okay there is because one of their key parts of their team or their unit, Travis Hunter, we don't know how much he'll play. And I think he's going to be good. Travis Kelce came out and said that teams are going to try to continue to run deep routes on Travis Hunter. Okay, good luck with that. And I understand why he's saying it. I don't think he said it because he believes that Travis Hunter can't run with people. I think he said it because He wants to see if teams can make Travis Hunter tired. That's a little naive, or it's a little bit. I understand where he's coming from, because it's one of the reasons I asked the question about Travis guarding Travis. And the example that I even told Liam Cohen and I told James Gladstone, my motivation was this: you guard Nico Collins on one side, and then you have to go against Derek Stingley. Are those two going to talk to each other and say, hey, you rough him up as much as you can and make him as tired as you can, so that when he's on the field with me, he's not effective? Well, let me tell you who can alleviate that. The Jaguars. Yeah, the Jaguars. They know what rest is. They know what certain plays are. It's gonna be very, very judicious for us to watch how they substitute him in and out, what type of situations they're in. The other thing is, if the Jaguars are playing bail technique and they're playing off, they're playing more cover two and less single high, you might not be getting Travis Hunter running around there on Xavier Worthy every single play. He might have some help. The other part of it is, the one thing you have to do when you are running guys on deep routes, your quarterback has to stay upright. And I just said the Jaguars just have improved their edge unit. So that's how you can combat that. But we do appreciate Travis Kelce talking about what teams are going to do to Travis Hunter. It is because people have never seen certain things, right? When you haven't seen something, you try to come up with a way to say why you don't think it'll work. But then you realize the guy is special and he's Batman, and it doesn't apply to him. But they also have Jordan Lewis, who I think is a real good player. They have Jarian Jones, who is a good player. They have Tyson Campbell, who is a good player. This is just not going to. They have Buster Brown, who's had one of the good off seasons, as talked about by a lot of members of the media and coaches and people on the sideline when I was at OTAs and minicamp. So there's more to it. I just want to see the parts come together. I want to see the new parts come together. Okay, Eric Murray at safety. I want to see what Eric Murray does. I want to see how Darnell Savage does when his role is more defined. And then Caleb Ransall, what it looks like with him full time. And then Andrew Wingard, obviously, there's a lot to be there. I almost want to say that I'm really, really sure about them. I don't think they need to go adding anybody else, if that's the thing, but I still want to see it just a little bit. But I'm good with it. I like what they've done. I'm ready to go to camp, and I'm willing to say I think we're all right at that position. So there's a couple of units I ain't mentioned yet. And that kind of means that, well, maybe I got some questions. It does not mean that I don't think that the confidence that is in those units is wrong. You shouldn't have that confidence. I do believe that. However, I still want to hold out and reserve. This is not me saying that they're bad. What it is me saying I want to hold out and reserve how I feel about them. I'll tell you about those two units and why I feel that way in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, so we have been discussing here on Locked On Jaguars today the units and the rooms and the categories I put them in. Ones I feel good about, ones I feel okay about, and ones that I am keeping an eye on. And now, I'm keeping an eye on two units. The reason why I'm keeping an eye on two units are different. One unit, the Jaguars' new brass felt good enough that they used resources on everything except that particular unit, and that's the interior defensive line. They either felt good enough about it because of the people that were there, the folks that they had financially committed to that are there, the fact that instead of replacing them with lesser players, they just decided to stick with the ones that they had, or they really do feel good about them. I don't know. Maybe it's a combination of all of that, because you're always looking to upgrade. You're always looking to get better. You're always looking to replace people. But for some reason, with all of those draft picks, with the amount of money that they had in free agency, they had guys like Gabe Davis making a bunch of money. They moved on. They bit the bullet, right? They did not do that at defensive line, interior. I heard through the grapevine, it's not from a coach, it's from somebody who probably talks to him a lot, that they had their 3 techniques in the building already. So why would they? So that means that they love Eric Armstead, who a lot of those coaches coached against for years, for the last decade or so, especially the ones that came from the Rams. And they probably have him on their board as who it is that they are mostly concerned with, right? They also probably had a scouting report on Mason Smith and then had the benefit of watching the tape to see what he did last year. If Devon Hamilton had been in the free agency market, he'd have been one of the first defensive tackles snatched up, regardless of how the folks around here feel about Devon Hamilton. And then they probably just got the information from the training and coaching staff about his recovery from the mystery illness that he had over a year and a half ago or whatever. And now they feel like, okay, he can get back on track. I'm going to tell you something. Some people love Jordan Jefferson. So this is another case where I got to say, if that's the case, if they like all 4 of those guys, then Trent didn't get it wrong, but they got it wrong with how they tried to use them. With Ryan Nielsen, Doug Peterson, that whole thing, because they looked at that and said, nope, based on what we have, we're okay. It could be based on what we have, we're okay, because trying to maneuver around it and get better, it ain't going to really help us. So that's 1 year. In 1 year, you're not going to be able to fix everything. But they damn sure tried to fix the offensive line. They added 4 bodies in free agency, one of which I know is a surefire starter, and that's Pat McCarry. The other guys, I believe Robert Hainsey is also going to start at center because, one, they're familiar with him and they paid him like a starter. And Luke Fortner, he has to show some improvement. Chumi Doga. Chumi Doga might start at right tackle if Anton Harrison doesn't start. And then Fred Johnson is your backup. And they're kind of paying Fred Johnson to be a backup. And Fred Johnson kind of moves around like a backup. And what I mean by that is he ain't doing nothing wrong. It's just like he's big and he's there and it kind of looks like he's just kind of walking around slow, just like you know what it is, right? I'm here for you, but look, I'm just going to do what I'm supposed to, and that's it. You kind of get that feeling, and maybe it's just his body language or whatever because he's so big. But and then they added Jonah Monheim and, of course, Wyatt Milliam in free agency. So while I think they've done a good and admirable job of lifting the floor and injecting talent into the middle of the team at that position, I do still believe that they may have some work to do. They absolutely might have some work to do. So a lot of work still has to be done when it comes to trusting and believing that that offensive line is going to be what it is, and we'll just have to see. Now, there's another unit here. I didn't really put them in a category because it's like incomplete. I really don't know about the linebackers. The one thing I do know about is Foye Oluokun. I think Foye Oluokun is the real deal. And Foye Oluokun is going to be somebody you can definitely count on when it comes to this football season. I don't know about Devin Lloyd. The team did not pick up their 5th-year option. I don't know about him. I also do not know. I don't know about. I also don't know about Chad Muma. I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little bit concerned about Chad Muma. So, yeah. That's a little bit concerning for me. Ventrell Miller, I like Jack Kaiser, but he's a rookie. I just don't know about the unit because there's so many unknowns to it. I think they've improved. I can include Gardeck in that area. I can also include Yasir Abdullah 5'6" into that equation. I just don't know. There's just so many unknowns. So I'm going to give that one a little bit of an incomplete. One, I don't know how they're going to be used. The other thing is I really just don't know what they're going to do and how good they're going to be able to do it. So if anything, I would say that that's a little bit of an incomplete, but I have a lot of questions. They were somewhere between questions and solid, right? Because Foye Oluokun is so good. You always have a little bit of a concern, man, when you don't know what the rest of the stuff is. The most perplexing part of this is Devin Lloyd and Chad Moon, right? And then I'm trying to figure out how they feel about Ventrell Miller. But I do like the fact that they added Jack Kaiser at that position and at that spot. So we'll just have to see how that happens. But a lot of optimism for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And in some of these cases, there's a little bit of trepidation. What does it all mean? I'll go over that tomorrow from a team perspective, like offense, defense as a whole, and then the coaching staff and how I believe this whole thing. That'll be the next podcast I do. How you can bring this entire thing together, okay? But I feel good about wide receiver, edge, quarterback, pretty good about the special teams also. I feel solid about defensive back and running back. I have some questions about offensive line and the interior. The edge is in a good spot, I believe. The offensive line, the interior. I put a square around tight end too with questions because I've seen something recently. So I don't want to be contrarian just to be contrarian. There's some people that think Brenton Strange is one of the 10 best starters in the league at tight end. And I'm not there yet, right? But I do think the Jaguars filled in with 3 professional football tight end veteran types. And a couple of them don't have a whole bunch of stats, right? The guys, everybody doesn't have stats. It's not all about stats. It's about body types. Johnny Munt, it's about Hunter Long. I saw Johnny Munt make big plays last year catching the ball from Sam Darnold. Hunter Long hasn't had a lot of catches, but he keeps sticking around. Some people love him. He came to the Rams from the Dolphins in the Jalen Ramsey trade. They made a move for Quentin Morris, and they went out and got him. Sean Bowman, a lot of these dudes. But Quentin Morris was a veteran they went and got to kind of round out their tight end room. What I like is they're professionals. They have the certain type of body types, and they're not the quote-unquote move tight ends. They're guys that when you put them in a game, they can do multiple things. So that doesn't give these other teams tells when it comes to trying to figure out what the Jaguars are up to. If you're up to trying to be smarter, one way you can do that is by going to Locked On NFL Scouting with Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino. That podcast is so good, man, it'll make you smarter about your team as you head into training camp. Make sure you check out Locked On NFL Scouting right here on the Locked On Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcast. All right, man, we'll have another podcast. The next one, we talk about coaching. We'll talk about the big picture on offense and defense, and then the coaching staff and what we can expect from the Jaguars as training camp is going to start later on this month. We'll discuss all of that and more as we continue to move forward in the offseason here on Locked On Jaguars. Take care.